Here we are at Somersby Falls. I'm going to introduce this great location to the new S5. So my first tip for shooting waterfalls is it's all about the light. So generally you want overcast light or even light. Now this can be at sunrise when you don't have the sun to contend with, or sunset, or when you've got it in shadow, or where it's overcast light, or you're getting a bit of rain and drizzle. These are the best sort of conditions generally for shooting waterfalls. So another tip is also make sure you look at where the water's going. Try in your picture to create a flow. Here you've got like an S pattern happening. So that's really beautiful. So you can have it coming out of the top right corner, going off down to the left. So that creates an S in your photograph, which creates a sense of the third dimension. So think about where the water's coming from, where the water's going to, and the journey of the water. Now another tip is also don't always shoot too close to a waterfall. Often people just see a waterfall and go, wow, you know, and they get overwhelmed and they just shoot the waterfall. And there's no scale in it, you don't know how big it is, and so often look for things that can give you a sense of how big the waterfall is to give you scale, or maybe go back a bit and shoot through the trees and incorporate the scene with the waterfall, so you're not just always shooting the waterfall. So another tip is to have a neutral density filter, which actually slows down the exposure because it actually blocks the light, and you can get various densities. Normally I use an 8-stop filter or a 6-stop filter, which knocks down the light by 6 stops. Another tip when shooting waterfalls, not all are as user-friendly as this one, but sometimes when you're at waterfalls, there's water going everywhere, especially higher ones. So it's good to have a t-shirt or a cloth that you can wipe your lens, or have an umbrella so you can shield yourself from a lot of the spray that's coming everywhere. And I used this very successfully when I was shooting a lot of the big falls in South America. Another good tip for shooting waterfalls is often you may have to get wet to get the good shot. For me, here I've got to get out in the middle of the water, so here we go. Think about stitching. Stitching is basically shooting multiple shots, starting from left to right, making sure you get plenty of overlap. And just remember, when you're stitching, the wider angle lens you use, the more overlap you need to get between your shots. And I would recommend, if you're going to do stitching, to put a stitching head on. And there's some pretty good stitching heads out there, because it makes it a lot easier to make sure that the shots are shot on the nodal point of the lens, which is basically where the point where your beams cross over. And if you need to know more about nodal points, you can look that up on the internet. So one of the most important things when you're shooting waterfalls or anything is make sure you're having fun. So I hope these tips that I've given you now can help you get some better shots when you're shooting waterfalls.